Hi everybody, my name is Irina and I personally do not have the solutions to crime in Jamaica, but I have a few ideas I would like to share with you and hear your opinion. If you're a Jamaican or a foreigner, I hope this episode can be useful. This video is part 2 about the complex subject of crime in Jamaica. And if you haven't watched part 1, I strongly suggest you check it out before proceeding with this episode. And the link to part 1 is right here and in the description. First, the disclaimer. The video is mainly made for Jamaicans because I love Jamaica and its people, and this is the country where I live. I'm not claiming to be an expert on anything, yet I did spend most of my life studying and teaching, and if I cannot use my knowledge and skills to make at least little contribution, what is the point of it all? Now let's recognize the main problem of crime, and we'll start with an example. There is an imaginary country with 1 billion people, and only one man encounters violent crime in the whole history of this country. Statistically, that country would be viewed as the safest place on earth when it comes to crime. But it won't matter to that particular one man and his family. For him, that country wasn't safe. This goes to show that even one innocent person being a victim is already too many. The main problem of crime is not how bad the crime is, but how to solve it. That's why the goal and motivation behind any kind of discussion about crime should be one and only one: finding solutions. The first thing to look at what is already being done. Is somebody working on crime solutions for Jamaica? And if so, who and how? I've noticed that most people in Jamaica expect government to solve the issue with crime. And indeed, there has always been a strategy put in place by Jamaican government. What is the strategy? Is it working but just takes time? Is it not working? Or maybe it's a good strategy but just hasn't been implemented? What's going on? Let's have a look. The strategy is called 5-Pillar Strategy for Crime Prevention and Citizen Security. I will leave the link to the whole document from the government side so that you can read it. But in short, it goes as follows, right here. Pillar number 1, the police force. 2, bringing criminals to justice. These two things are the crime control mechanisms, but they do not prevent crime, and they're not solutions to crime in any way. You will see why later in the video. Number 3, they call social development. It's a broad topic, so it's not clear what exactly they mean by that. But they talk about inequality, tackling poverty, better education. This is aimed at the reasons. So yeah, this would be the main solution to crime, depending on how it is implemented, of course. Number 4 is physical environment, and they mention a key factor, the so-called crime prevention through environmental design. This is when communities are built in such a way which does not only reduce the opportunity for somebody to commit crime, but it also attempts to fight the issue of the fear of crime. You know, lack of maintenance tends to make people feel unsafe and feel like undesirable behavior can occur there even if it doesn't. It's just a feeling you get. Number 5, community reintegration. This is the work with people who committed crime at some point and now they're being helped to get back to society and so on. So we see the official plan. How many of this is actually implemented and how exactly it is done? It would take me another year to research. But just looking at it, it looks like a quite solid plan. The only problem I see it has in theory, just my opinion, it completely misses out the media part. The work with the media, like journalists, film directors, musicians, they're absent from these pillars. And yet it's their job to influence public opinion by promoting good things, encouraging good actions, creating role models, that kind of stuff. Foreign media can say whatever they want about Jamaica because they have their own goals. But here, locally, the media should aim at helping Jamaica to be as successful as possible. Isn't it what Jamaicans want? Anyway, what I can understand from this is that the core people who are working on crime solutions for Jamaica right now are the people from the Ministry of National Security. If we read their reports, articles, official interviews with the ministers, all of them are about getting tougher, the control and punishment. Even when they talk about education, like social development programs, it's make them study from this to this, and the ones who fail, discipline them. The whole rhetoric is basically focused on fighting the evil and the war against crime. So these seem to be the main aspects of the strategy. Can it work? Let's assume that you have a government that is perfect, no corruption whatsoever, the police and the justice system doing the phenomenal job catching criminals and punishing them. Do you think this way crime will be solved in Jamaica? I can tell you what's going to happen. The homicide rates will go down for like a month or maybe 2 months, maximum a year, and then they will go up again. And the problem with crime can become even worse than before. How do I know? It's not a secret. This has been done many times by different countries with exactly the same results. The best example, the country with the toughest police and justice system in the world, the United States. Doesn't matter whether you believe their police is good or bad, but it's tough. And note, the US is not a poor country, so crime should have been solved there a long time ago. But instead, crime rates in the US are still very high. Yes, I know the US government always brings up their low homicide rate. Look, here, it's 5. But that's only because the victims don't die when they're being shot or stabbed. If you look at the actual rate of aggravated assaults in the US, the rate is 250. There were over 700,000 cases. And just because these victims didn't die doesn't mean the attack never happened. At some point, the US officials were saying the homicide rates are down, so blame the police. Well, maybe also blame the wonderful doctors and the technology people now have. Anyway, the reason I brought this up is not to make any comparison, but it's to illustrate that this strategy of getting tougher doesn't solve the problem of crime in the US. And if it doesn't work with all the resources US has, come on, guys. Jamaica simply doesn't stand a chance if we keep using these strategies. There, I made the comparison after all, but you got the point. What also needs to be added here is why it's not working. Obviously, let's catch and punish all the criminals, and new people will replace them in no time. It's just a never-ending process. I mean, it's like trying to get water out of a boat that has a huge hole and sinking. The system of punishment is supposed to work like a form of deterrent, but the reality proves it's not. It's a form of control. You can hold the police accountable for responding to crime, the crime that has already been committed. It's a very important factor, but not a solution to crime. What is? We need to understand the reasons why people commit crime in the first place, and then eliminate these reasons. Very straightforward. Why is it so difficult then? Assuming the governments are doing their job right, it's still difficult because of 2 factors. 1, there are hundreds of reasons that can make a person turn to crime. It can be really anything. Maybe a teenager was told off for misbehavior, and that became the last drop which triggered some set of events which resulted in him joining the gang. Nobody can make the list of these reasons and how they interconnect. However, what we can do, we can see the main tendency that is common among all crimes, and that is everything to gain and not much to lose. That's it. That's the one and only reason. But how do we solve something like this? It's too vague. It requires the consideration from, Maslow's pyramid of needs to what we're here for. And that's the first factor. As you can understand, a government can announce a state of emergency, place the police, catch the criminals, and point to the public, see, we're working on this. It's easier than chasing some unclear goal with complicated reasons. And this, of course, brings me to factor number 2. Solving crime is so difficult because it's a very long-term project. The reasons for people to turn to crime begin forming in childhood. So the actions people take today will have an effect on crime in about 15 years from now, when these children grow up and start making decisions about their life. And the result in crime you are seeing now are coming from children who were born at the end of the 1990s. So the lag in the results you see is like a generation. But the public demands results now from the current government. So push all the budget now for the real solution years later. And by the way, never be praised for it, of course. Or do something short term that people can see. What would be your choice if you were in the government? However, there was one point in recent history that resulted in almost instant change in crime. From 1960s, crime rates were going up in most countries in the world, including Jamaica. However, in 1990s, something happened that made crime rates fall, but only in the so-called first world countries, while everywhere else the tendency remained. What happened in 1990s? I asked that question in the first part of the video I made about crime, and my dear subscribers shared some really good ideas that I will surely take into account while making videos. But for now, what happened in 1990s? The major one that influenced all first world countries, but not so much the rest of the world at that time, the computers and the internet, of course. So people who pointed this out, you were absolutely right. See this graph here. The US, Canada, UK, all these crime rates dropping suddenly. If you wonder, but we have internet and computers in Jamaica right now, why isn't this happening? And how does this exactly influence crime anyway? Most crime is committed by men at the age between 17 to 35. This is a common feature of pretty much all countries. All other features like social status, background, types of crime committed, they differ depending on a country, but age group and gender is one thing they share in common. Think now. The group of men between the age of 17 to 35, how do they spend their free time in Jamaica? Beautiful weather, people go outside, play football, partying, dancing, spending time with friends. It hasn't really changed much from 1990s. Now compare with these same guys in first world countries. They play computer games, including the violent ones. Doesn't it supposed to drive violence up, by the way? These games, they should contribute to increase of violence in real life for sure, right? No, it works the other way around. There have been multiple researches on the subject, and I will leave a link in the description for those who are interested. If young men in those countries want to prove to their peers how powerful they are, they can do it in a game. They can shoot each other in a game. It's this whole subculture now. Most people of my generation or older are not even realizing this is happening. It's not only computer games. Whether you believe that computers are good or bad, the fact remains. They keep people at home. These young men now use computers to compete with each other, prove their worth, build a career, and become rich using computers, offering all sorts of products and services and working online. And the last but not least, why bother getting your hands dirty with violent crime when you can simply commit crime using computer and get a much higher reward? However, when countries measure crime rates, they continue doing so in the same way as it was done from 1960s. As an example, the FBI website. We see here violent crime, property crime. They're simply measuring their own type of crime. In 1990s, there was an absolutely unprecedented crime displacement. In first world countries, crime didn't disappear and it didn't start falling. It just went online. This year, I spent 2 months searching for a gaming computer in Jamaica. There were none. None. I mean, there are computers, of course, but there are no proper gaming computers. Once again, I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm just stating a fact. Jamaica has a very fast internet available. There is a lot of good software. It's very convenient nowadays. Like tax office is now online, so this is good. Bank software is good, at least with some banks. But IT in general is not a big thing in Jamaica. Now, my opinion, so please take it with a grain of salt. I'm not saying that IT can be the solution to violent crime in Jamaica, but it can be one of the things that can help with the reduction of violent crime. I mean, has anyone considered this? I think it should be considered. Why? Because it worked in other countries. Look, IT didn't solve crime there. It actually created a lot more crime called cybercrime, but violent crime reduced as a result. So next time when you're looking at crime rates and see that the developed countries have a lower homicide rates than third world countries, keep in mind that it's not only because of all the things they did, but also because they have this huge crime type displacement that happened by pure accident. The truth is, the only people who can solve the problem of crime in Jamaica are obviously the Jamaicans themselves. Not just the government, it requires the efforts of a lot of people. As for me personally, can I contribute to solving the problem? For this video series about crime, in the last few months, I've read and watched tons of materials, from newspaper articles to scientific books. And to the point that I actually did a short course in criminology because I wanted to understand what's going on. Besides, the first degree I took back in the day was journalism and social science, and I truly, dearly hated it. I would have never thought that information I got back then could ever be useful to me. And look at me now. I'm writing video articles about social issues. Can't run away from your destiny, I guess. I have to be straightforward with you guys. I was hoping that I could put everything about crime in just 2 short videos. But as I was writing this second video, this script came to be 4 hours long. It's too much, so I can either lose the rest of it, or what I can do, I can share the information in parts and these ideas I have. If somebody finds them useful and it results in a positive change, great. But I'm very careful about that though, because I'm only one human and it's very easy to make a mistake because of being biased or because of not knowing something. But what if these YouTube videos explaining what's really going on with crime in Jamaica can help people realize that the situation is not exactly how it seems, and as a result encourage people who are professionals in different fields to search for new solutions, since the ones that have been used so far . Now my questions are to our advisory board, our subscribers. Question number 1. What do you think about this government program, the 5 pillars strategy? I would personally want the media aspect in there with role models and so on. What do you think? The other question. There was a very good point in the comment section about laws regarding birth control. Thank you so much for bringing this up, by the way. And indeed, there is a correlation. Countries with high crime rates are the ones where abortion is illegal, and Jamaica is one of them. This is weird because Jamaica is so far ahead with women's rights than most other countries, but not when it comes to birth control. Why? Is it like because of religion, like the Christian values, or is there something else I'm missing? And the last question, what do you think about the IT industry in Jamaica, including computer games? Jamaican kids don't like playing games? Or maybe they have no equipment, or maybe no money to buy the equipment? I mean, what is it? Or maybe they do spend all their time at a computer, I just don't know about it. Please share. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm looking forward to reading your comments. I'm sorry if I can't reply to everyone personally right away. I'm working on getting back to everyone. If you think this video can be interesting to others, don't forget to share it. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.